Hi, I'm Eleni, and I'm here to talk about another triad, one of the tools of human-centric leading. Now, in a workshop we had yesterday, someone asked me about bullying and bully behavior. So the first distinction I'd like to make before I dive into that exercise is that in human-centric leading, we make a conscious effort to see people as humans, not as a label, not as a job or a title, not as a replaceable cog in a wheel, rather a human with all their dimensions. So that means all their thoughts, all their feelings, and all their behavior and outcomes. So instead of saying somebody's a bully, which is a label, we could say they use bully behavior. So let's try to use that distinction. So what we've started with first and is really creating a triad for the person using the bully behavior. And that's one way we can empathize with them and try to understand what they need to really respond differently with them. So we could see all types of different behavior, and you can, design your own, but often people who bully use this type of behavior at work. And we're not talking about people who physically hit each other like kids at work or other people in other contexts, but usually in organizations people don't hit each other, but they kind of bully or use bully behavior in these ways, right? And the question is, what does someone who uses this behavior have to feel? And we're like, well, maybe they have to feel not enough or intimidated or powerless or weak. They could even feel helpful. Like if I criticize someone, I could feel helpful. That could be another feeling we add on there. They might also think, I need to get a lot of things done. They might have the idea of kill or be killed, aggress or be aggressed upon. They might have the idea, people need me. I'm needed here to behave this way because, people can't create order. They can't do things the way I can do them. And so it's very rare in my experience in working and coaching with people who have been called bullies by their families or bosses or staff. I've never met someone who thinks I'm a bully, or I think I should be a bully, or bullies are good. I've never heard that. So that was a really interesting learning for me. So I am drawing this triad now from the experience of working with people who have been labeled as bullies. And it's fascinating to notice that, that's like a very different triad than we might assume. Because when we see somebody's behavior, and let's say it's aggressive in tone, fast-paced, maybe they tower over you, depending, it like feels aggressive. It's very hard to humanize them, right? It's very easy to say bully, and that's all they are. They've ceased to be a real human with their own dynamics going on in their mind, right? And all of these are not necessarily conscious. They could be subconscious. So now this is a new way of looking at this type of behavior. We humanize the people using that. So let's go to the next triad, which could be our triad, let's say. Let's say we are faced with someone who behaves this way in our home or in our work contexts. This could be a triad of like, okay, when I see this, I avoid that person at all cost, or I comply to shut them up, or I ignore them. And what do I have to feel to do that? I feel agitated or frustrated or even disgusted by certain types of behavior. I feel intimidated. And when we feel intimidated, we can often feel powerless. What do I have to think to feel that way or behave that way? Well, I could hate that person. I could be very angry. Like, I could think, what could I do to avoid them? What could I do to shut them up? And I could think this is terrible behavior, I'm not accepting this is unacceptable, all sorts of other things. So this is just an example, right? We can have many different types of triads and responding to many different triads of bully behavior. Now let's spend our time on thinking about, well, let's say we have to work with someone, at work, or we have someone at home who behaves this way, and we don't really want to get caught up in this anymore. We want something new. So let's say we ask ourselves, what do we want to feel? When I drew this out, I said, I want to feel empathetic and neutral. I want to be calm. I don't want to feel intimidated. I don't want to feel powerless. I want to feel that I'm okay, that I have, I matter, that I have certain skills that I can share regardless if someone criticizes me or ridicules me. I understand aggression, like I can understand what's behind this, and I can depersonalize it. How do we depersonalize? Well, oftentimes people who use bully behavior, they target specific people. They tend to target on, they sense this kind of thing. They don't like do it, let's say, necessarily consciously. They sense who feels intimidated, who feels like they're going to comply or just do what they say. And they can tell. It's amazing instinctual knowing. And so they tend to go after these types of people. So isn't that fascinating? Like the way we respond affects who comes and aggresses upon us. And so if we want to say, you know what, I want to have a different type of response. I don't want to feel the way I used to feel. I want to feel this way. I have to think in different ways. I have to say, like, I'm okay. That person can criticize, undermine, intimidate, ridicule. I still know who I am. I still know my work and what I contribute to my team and my organization. I still can support myself and reinforce myself. And then I respond. So this is part of getting to this triad, is going to the Acropolis, which is another human-centric leading tool. And you can look at another video on that. And it really says, okay, how can I take some distance and look at things from a different vantage point and look at what do people need? So we go to the other tool of human-centric leading, the basic human needs. So I come back to this and say, behind all reactive behavior, behind any tantrum are unmet needs. You can find this in nonviolent communication and human-centric leading, which envelopes that. So it's like, so looking beyond the surface behavior. So I see someone intimidating or trying to intimidate me. I see someone aggressing at me. I see someone criticizing or undermining me. I see that. I don't have to take it on. I see it. What might that person need? Maybe that person needs to feel significant, like I matter. That's I matter. Maybe they need certainty, like, okay, I have to take care of everything so we can be safe. It could be a subconscious thought here. Maybe they need love or connection, like they need to be heard or listened to, because everyone they meet avoids them or ignores them or even complies to shut them up. And so they don't get a lot of quality communication that way. So we start to think about what's happening here. We've humanized the person by drawing a triad and empathizing with how they must feel or how they might feel, what they might be thinking. We don't know this. We can verify by talking to them. We don't have to ask them what you think and what you feel. We can ask them in different ways. And let's do an example. So let's say at work, we have a boss who behaves this way. Someone who's aggressive, someone who always criticizes our work, someone who criticizes. I had someone in a workshop say her accent was criticized, ridiculed how someone looks, how someone portrays their information or what words they use. Like if you're talking about engineers and financial people, they use different vocabulary. So sometimes they can't talk to each other. And so maybe this person, whoever this person is, will use this intimidating tactic and make fun of someone and make fun of us. Let's say they're making fun of us at work. And we can start saying, okay, this is not personal. If anyone in face of that situation with this person would be agitated, because this is not pleasant behavior. So we could say, okay, I want to feel calm and empathetic. So I want to figure out, what does this person need? Well, maybe they need to feel important. So have you ever been with someone who says, I'm the boss here. I'm the project leader. Have you ever seen that? When people do that, it means they don't feel like they're respected. They don't feel like they have the power they want from that position or expect. So they assert it by saying it and by demanding it and being very clear about it. And so you can imagine if somebody's saying that, especially in an animated way or an aggressive way, and especially in a tense time in the meeting or in a project lifeline, you can imagine they need to feel important, significant. Or maybe they need to feel certain or safe, like, okay, they're not going to be fired and things will go well. Because oftentimes people think that they're needed. And they're like, you can imagine all sorts of thoughts and feelings. And it's usually not, I'm powerful. So someone who's powerful doesn't need to intimidate someone. Just think about it. Think of the people you consider powerful or grounded or empowered or visionary. Do they aggress on anyone? Do they do any of these things? Usually not the case. So we start to wonder, when we humanize this person, it's a lot easier to figure out how to respond to them. Instead of getting hooked into this, where we're powerless and we feel like victims, like we have to absorb the aggression or else. We can say, you know what? That person is the way they are. They're behaving the way they are in this moment. It's okay. Let me try to figure out what I could do to get under the real needs and see how we can progress this project. So if there's a boss who's criticizing everyone, ridiculing, you could ask, or we could ask, what do you think is the best next step for us to take? Or what are your concerns about our project or the way we're going about things? Or what do you think is the most important aspect of today's meeting? And you start looking at, what do you as a person or a team leader or part of the team need to feel resourceful and do your best? Or you can represent the whole team in face of someone like that. So if they're like picking on people, you could say, what do you think is the best thing we could do right now? And somehow they won't say, oh, to criticize her. It usually doesn't happen, but you could try it and see, because you never know with humans. We always surprise each other. But if you always try to focus it, it will help. It will help you stay in this context, and you will then decide how you respond, how you feel, how you think, and what results you're going to get out of that. Because we all know, and many of us have been here, the results aren't good here. The results are more powerful here because they focus us on what we could do instead of just absorb this as a personal experience. We could say, okay, let me turn that around, or let me bypass it somehow, not in a disrespectful way, but really going down to what's needed. So it might include, you know what? You are the boss, and we respect you in that position in this moment. What would you recommend we do? Because we feel like making fun of someone's accent, what do we do with that? You could even say that. It depends on how frank you want to be. As you start to give and help people feel or fill the needs that they need, you are more able to help them get into a resourceful state of mind and move out of that. And so you focus, by responding to needs, you focus attention on what's actually needed to progress either the project or the relationship or the initiative at hand. So if you want to practice this in response to this video, you can start to wonder, who have you known as someone who behaves as a bully? And if you haven't, maybe if you've ever seen it, and you can draw out a triad, like what does someone have to feel to behave like a bully, or think to behave like a bully? And then what do I want to start thinking and feeling and doing in response to that makes me more empowered, more able to focus on the work instead of get caught up in this personal fight? And this allows us all to choose the way we're going to respond. And then this person stops using it, because people kind of behave in certain ways to other people if it's accepted. And if we stop accepting it by just responding to needs, we can turn that experience around.